My great privilege and honor to introduce Rajeev Sethi Sahab. He's undoubtedly India's leading designer who has created waves internationally. Is it better now? Rajeev ji, thank you for being with us here. We wish to celebrate you and your unparalleled achievements. In fact, I was telling Nusi, ये एक session बहुत कम है to put across Rajeev ji's work. You need a whole festival. So we are going to try and put together that. Okay. Rajeev ji's office has actually put together a collection of his slides, of his work, spanning over the last 40 years. And I'm going to try and show that to you. It's a visual documentation. And after that, we will request him to speak. So it's slightly different rather than a conversation. So it will be great for everyone to see his work. I don't think we've actually gone through the work. Are you? So summarizing a lifelong passion into a brief introduction, after you see it, you may realize why the architect William Larish's remark about Rajeev at Princeton University are so apt. He says, Mr. Sethi has accomplished so much in so many fields that the gods, no doubt, will excuse him in his next incarnation from doing anything at all. He is someone who has moved effortlessly from one discipline to another within a vision which is coherent, aesthetically, socially, and spiritually. Rajeev Sethi is multifaceted. His vision is all-encompassing, goes way beyond the obvious. Projects are larger than life. They are really timeless. Mr. Sethi's consistent vision for cross-cultural, curatorial, and scenographic practices celebrated by eminent artists and thinkers from all over the world. Born in New Delhi, his formative years were spent in Delhi, New York, and Paris. In the late 1960s, at NID, he was mentored by the famous designers Ray and Charles Eames. And I think he spent a couple of years at NID, and they sent him off, and he was in Paris. He worked under Pierre Cardin, that's his photograph with Pierre Cardin. After which he came back, and he was really fortunate and wonderful to be a protege of giants, the great icons of India, eminent Gandhians like Mrs. Kamala Devi Chattopodya and Pupul Jaikar, who encouraged him to direct his talents to India. In an interview for the Friday Times, he asked the words of Mr. Rajeev Sethi. He says, Kamala Devi gave me compassion. Pupul was the head and the eye. Kamala Devi was the heart. And Gira Sarabhai was all about that. The three most influential women in my life. Sethi, Friends of Artists in Need, this is what he formed, looked at basic issues of shelter, health, legal rights, old age demolition of creative professionals and their poor families. Rajeev Sethi, in the words, actually uses tradition to alter traditions. There are lovely slides which I think basically I'm going to be just running through these and should enjoy these. He founded the Asian Heritage Foundation, and later called it the South Asian Design and Arts and Technology Center in New Delhi, Sadak. I wonder, are they the same, Rajeev? Sadak. Sadak hai, okay. SEDAK. My mistake, Sadak. The brand Geo Creative and Cultural Industries is owned by the Creative Communities of India. The Hunarmand will perhaps remain his lasting legacy, working for the last 5 years in the villages of Andhra Pradesh and Bihar to empower the skilled poor. He also said in his interview that my heart really hurts when I see the most vulnerable Hunarmand, because I can see so many options for them, open for them to express themselves with dignity and fortune, to be able to make something out of nothing. Asian Heritage Foundation, under Mr. Sethi's leadership, has now extended the visionary approach of design-led intervention to 3 more troubled states of Jharkhand, Orissa, and Madhya Pradesh, currently the hotbed of extremist forces. In 1980, he designed and curated award-winning exhibitions and events worldwide. At Smithsonian, Aditi, which is remembered by all, and the Mela. So 2 of these exhibitions were acknowledged by the Smithsonian as the most highly acclaimed exhibitions in the history of the institution, celebrating the rite of passage from fertility, courtship, marriage, childbirth, and thereafter. The exhibits were interfaced with live interventions that established the relationships of crafts, performing arts, through the human passage of life. As tangible tribute to the living arts of rural India, this dynamic display of 100 performers and craft demonstrators changed curatorial practices and concepts of exhibition design. These are all images of Aditi. As a tangible tribute to the living arts of rural India, for the first time, this dynamic display animated 100 performers. Both Aditi and the Mela, going on the mall outside, had unprecedented media attention, first at the Barbican in UK, and then finally at the Museum of Natural History in the USA. In his 3rd path-breaking exhibition, The Golden Eye in the 80s, at the Cooper Hewitt National Museum of Design in New York, Rajeev invited legendary designers and architects to work in the villages with the craftspersons of the Hunarmand to design products for everyday usage. This is the craftsman. This is Kesaria Ram in his village, where hundreds of skilled craftsmen have no work other than build the roads. And he worked with Mario Bellini on the stone bench. There are further examples of the work. With Jack Larson on the screens, flat weaves and textiles. With Mary McFadden, with brocade weavers, zari workers from Mathura, and bangle makers and jewelers. Tents in yurts with cane structures, applique and patchwork took the world by storm. Press abroad made a significant change in the local people's way of looking at things, and that itself was quite a landmark. After the triumphs of the festivals of India, Mr. Sethi was invited by the German government to create one of the 6 themed pavilions on basic needs for the turn of the Millennium Expo 2000 in Hanover. He was given a free hand, a lot of support to select his team of eminent environmentalists, pioneering theatre groups like Bread and Puppet Theatre in USA, and several grassroots enterprises from 30 different countries to create his award-winning 70,000 square foot multicultural pavilion. Wow. Mr. Sethi was appointed the chief scenographer, the Goodwill Ambassador, and member of the Senate Committee for the Universal Forum of Cultures 2004 in Barcelona. He also conceived, designed, and produced a participatory installation titled Sky of Aspiration. Tree of Life micro-credit workshop developed in several continents and installed in Barcelona. In 2002 and 2004, till 2004, President of the World Bank invited Rajeev to act as mentor and prime mover of the bank towards policies to integrate support and for culture as an intrinsic part of poverty reduction and development in arts, crafts and design industries in developing countries. Mr. Sethi returned to the Smithsonian again with Yo-Yo Ma in 2004 to scenograph the unparalleled Silk Road Festival, involving artists from over 22 countries, laying out artistic rendition of major landmarks from Venice, Istanbul, Birmingham, Samarkand, Xi'an to Nara, and devising them as architectural sentinels of arrival along the east-west axis of the National Mall. Rajeev Saab's scenography enthralled millions who visited Washington, and the media once again acknowledged that they had never seen an event as evocative as this. These are all part of the Silk Road Festival. The need for an intermediate program involving the whole of South Asia, entitled SASIAN, Journey, slotted to be premiered in 2017 in Washington, D.C. We all look forward to that now. I think it's got Afghanistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and Myanmar as part of it. Mr. Sethi's sharp design sensibilities come from the sense of the theatrical, and he has partnered some of the world's legendary masters of theatre in the last century. 2 documentaries for the BBC, has been the artistic advisor to Peter Brooks for the Mahabharata. Creating and directing the play India, Mother-Daughter, Father-Son, on traditional systems of transmission for his long-time friend Ariane at La Theatre du Soleil in Paris, followed by production later in India. He also conceived and directed The Hidden River on the theme of the woman in man and the man in woman, flowing under the rock surface of gender stereotypes, waiting to be perceived. This most unusual theatrical performance was presented in a burnt-out mill in Mumbai with the National Centre of Performing Arts. For Rajeev, scale and scope of an event has never unnerved or intimidated the artist in him. Often, the bigger, the better, as evident in his huge manifestation as Director General for the Apna Ustad. Bringing 6,000 skilled people together for Rajiv Gandhi's visionary launch of the zonal cultural centers, blurring political boundaries between states and stretching the cultural canvas to make creative expressions seamless. He was asked to put together a unique celebration for the 150th year of independence, which he created a huge performative arena on and around the Red Fort, Sangram or Azadi. As an activist, he went to the Supreme Court challenging the work on the restoration done at the Red Fort by the Archaeological Survey, terming it as a renovation without a conservation master plan. His team won on all points, changed the course of the programming for restoration on monuments. The Sanja suffered an interdisciplinary exploration on themes of federalism and diversity. He has curated numerous installations and displays combining various media as well as design signature artworks, installations and architectural spaces around India and different parts of the world, some of which include the VIP lounge at the Delhi International Airport for Indira Gandhi, based on the theme of doors and windows making seamless rural metaphors with urban contemporary sensibilities. This is the VIP lounge. Details of that. Yeah, in a note to Mrs. Gandhi, there's a note somewhere here. Mrs. Gandhi's hand suggesting appropriate attention be given to the project. And this pioneering interior got the attention it deserved. Spice route at the Imperial Hotel in New Delhi, where Rajeev reconfigured and reinvented architectural features, creating new contexts and suggesting bold, tangible connections along the trade routes. He even sought the intangible in the kitchen, working on new menus to produce a pan-Asian menu in new palates. House in Mumbai, frustrated with government's lack of any roadmap after the festivals of India that could reach benefits to the doorsteps of the skilled artisans, Rajeev ji agreed to work pro bono with a family of friends who agreed to employ 500 craftspeople and fine artists to build the unique home in Mumbai. In this project, Rajeev broke the divide and hierarchies between the fine arts and crafts, creating a masterpiece of interior architecture and design, demonstrating what can be achieved with the right patronage. The first time I heard about Rajeev ji was by Dr. Mark Kenoyer, the archaeologist. He had just returned from Bombay after seeing the Shah House, and he said, do what you can, go to Bombay, try and find him. Because he just stood there, this Rajeev Sethi, and he threw a lot of chameli ke phool on the floor. That's exactly as you can see in this image. And he made the craftsman actually sit and carve out and enamel that inlay. Lakshmi Machine Works at at Coimbatore. Inspired by the sincere conviction of a well-known South Indian corporate house, Rajeev created 10 signature artworks as a tribute to the many attributes of goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. Grand Hyatt in Mumbai. Mr. Sethi has seen the city of Mumbai grow around, decaying, but jewel-like archaeological sites of Jogeshwari, Mandapeshwar and Elephanta, deeply moved by the concepts of eternal balance represented in the image of Sada Shiva. He conceived several artworks and commissioned eminent and emerging Indian artists over a series of thematically conceived public art installations, working with them to stretch their vocabulary. These contemporary interpretations of ancient sites and bas-reliefs augmented the artworks of the hospitality sector, evoking both the temporal and the spiritual in the life of India's busiest metropolis. Bilgrami. That's a beautiful poem if you would read, written by him. I asked him to sing it, he refuses. Knowing that India has a culture that is Shabd Pradhan, Rajeev often writes a poem before he begins his interventions. In this case, his experience of visiting a changing metropolis that inspired the making of 20 artworks created in collaboration with young, lesser-known artists from small towns. Pollinator 1, the Bee Festival and Art Installation at the Hive, Chennai. Inspired by the accidental occurrence of numerous beehives hanging tenaciously from the roof beams of a long abandoned building, Mr. Sethi orchestrated the largest permanent collection of site-specific art installations in Asia, based on honeybees and their hives. Some lovely letters. Adani House in Ahmedabad, keen to understand profound Jain teachings, he reinterpreted them, infusing them with the spirit of contemporary context. Rajeev is currently completing 12 site-specific signature artworks for the residents of Gautam and Preeti Adani. As being an enthusiastic and generous wedding planner for his godchildren and desirous of indulging the alchemy of family and friends, Rajeev created many scenographies, simply enjoying and celebrating his love for the ephemeral design only as a labor of love. Mr. Sethi is the first Asian artist chosen by Louis Vuitton to create special window installations globally across 1,000 stores as a part of a creative exchange, positioning traditional practices of skilled communities of India on an international platform. He is the recipient of many awards, and I'm not going to go through that because we are running short of time. But the greatest of all the projects, having gone through that, is really what we are going to see now. His most spectacular project opened last week. Rajeev called it Luminous Tomb, derived from the Latin word limina, You'll have to say it. Liminus refers to the threshold, the space of transition between two different realms. This program brought together designers, artists, artisans, architects, art historians, anthropologists, and conservators with the best tech.